Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? You're supposed to be learning something complex, maybe a technical manual, or prepping for a big exam. And instead, you somehow end up in a really intense, kind of silly trivia game about it. Well, guess what? We've been digging into some fascinating sources suggesting that exact feeling, that competitive, low stress fun, might actually be the secret sauce. Like a cognitive turbocharger for learning. It seems to turn that flimsy, short term stuff you forget overnight into knowledge that actually sticks, for years even. So, our mission today, unpack the cognitive science behind this. Why does turning review into a game, maybe like in a classroom where math problems look like a game show, actually work so well? We're diving deep into why this transforms passive learning into, well, robust long-term retention.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the success of those fun scenarios, it's deeply rooted in this principle called retrieval practice. That's the core thing here. See, the brain doesn't learn that well just passively taking stuff in. It learns by struggling a bit, by trying to find the answer. It's not about just seeing the information again, like rereading your notes. That's passive. It's the active thing, the cognitive effort of pulling that information out of your memory. And that effort, that little struggle to retrieve the fact, that's what makes the neural connection stronger. It makes the information stick.
Okay, let's break that down. Because honestly, we've all done it. Staring at a textbook, highlighting like crazy, reading notes over and over. You feel super productive, right? But then the next day, poof, it's gone. So was my 3 hours of highlighting just like a very colorful nap?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Sorry to say. Passive review tricks you.
Yeah.
It makes your brain think it knows the material because, well, it's right there on the page. You recognize it. But recognition isn't recall. You haven't practiced actually accessing it when it's not right in front of you. Think about it like neural pathways, like paths in a forest. Every time you successfully recall something, maybe answering a trivia question, solving a problem, it's like driving over a faint dirt track the first time. It's hard work. But every time after that, when you're forced to retrieve it, especially quickly, like in a game, you're deepening those ruts, making the path clearer so the facts stick longer because your brain has literally rehearsed the act of finding and using them repeatedly.
Successfully.
I think if it's all about that effortful search, that retrieval, aren't regular quizzes or flashcards enough? I mean, what's the unique thing that the trivia or the game element brings? Is it really worth setting up a whole game? Oh, that's a really important point. Yes, standard quizzes do use retrieval practice, absolutely. But trivia, the game format, it adds this crucial layer, a low-stakes social component, and that changes everything emotionally. The whole feeling shifts. It moves you away from performance anxiety, that fear of failing a test, towards engagement, towards motivation. Think about it. If getting an answer wrong just means a teammate quickly corrects you, maybe with a laugh, you're much more likely to guess, right? To take a chance. And you learn from that correction immediately without the stress.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So retrieval practice is the engine, but the trivia format is like the fun turbocharger that keeps the engine running smoothly, even happily. So we're not just talking about having fun then. It sounds like there are specific, measurable benefits, like building blocks for learning. What are these key benefits that a well-structured trivia game gives us?
Exactly. When it's set up right, game-based review gives you 4 really clear benefits that directly boost learning. First, and we keep coming back to this, it's active recall. The game forces you to retrieve information immediately, frequently. And like we said, that strengthens memory way more than just passively looking at the material again.
Right. Benefit 1, active recall. Got it. What's next?
Second is instant feedback. This is huge, especially for instructors, but also if you're learning on your own. When the questions are quick, the answers are immediate. You spot misunderstandings, those patterns of errors, right away, in real time. You can fix that knowledge gap then and there before the wrong information gets cemented in your brain.
Okay, instant correction. Makes sense. Third,
peer learning. This happens naturally when you put people in groups or teams to play. They have to discuss the answers. They debate, they clarify things for each other, they argue why their answer is right. And that process, explaining something to someone else, that peer teaching is incredibly powerful for retention. To explain it, you really have to understand it yourself.
Yeah, teaching is the best way to learn, they say. Okay, and the last one.
And finally, number 4, positive emotions. We touched on this earlier. The game element deliberately lowers the stress, that anxiety you might feel with a formal test. It reduces it by making it a memorable experience, maybe tied to curiosity, a bit of friendly competition. You increase engagement. Your brain actually starts to seek out that learning experience rather than avoiding it like a chore.
This is great. Moving from the theory to seeing it work. We looked at this case study, right? A seventh grade science team. They were reviewing ecosystems and had this classic problem. Kids could define producer, decomposer, basic terms. Fine. But they couldn't explain the connections, how it all fit together. Their understanding was just surface
No,
level.
exactly right. The teachers saw that rote memorization wasn't cutting it. They needed the students to synthesize the information actively. So they made a really smart switch. They ditched the passive review worksheets and brought in an interactive weekly trivia showdown. The goal was to make the vocabulary, and more importantly, those ecosystem cycles, active and collaborative.
But it wasn't just let's play a game. They were very intentional about how they structured it, weren't they? What were the key changes they made?
Yes, the structure was critical. They were clever about the teams. They set up stable groups, called them science houses. That stability built a team identity over time. Students felt invested in helping each other get better throughout the whole unit, not just for one game.
Ah, so it wasn't just random teams each week. Okay.
Right. And crucially, they upped the cognitive demand. A question wouldn't just be, what's a producer? It might be, say, which organism is the primary consumer in this food web and why?
Mhm.
Points weren't just for the right answer, the rabbit or whatever, but for clearly explaining the why, explaining the energy transfer involved.
Yeah.
That forces deeper thinking.
I loved that part. And there was something about a stumper round that sounded cool. How did
Yeah.
that work?
Oh, that was brilliant. Total ownership shift. In the stumper round, the students had to create their own challenging trivia questions, questions that linked different concepts from the unit. Now think about that. To write a good, tricky question, you first have to deeply understand the answer yourself, right? And you also have to anticipate where others might get confused. It instantly flips them from just consuming information to actually creating and analyzing it.
Wow, okay. That's clever. And linking back to that instant feedback idea, how did they manage all this without drowning in grading papers or tracking scores manually?
Yeah, that's the practical side. They use tech smartly. Things like Google Forms, other simple quiz apps. They use these tools to run the trivia games and automatically track teen scores, accuracy, even participation sometimes. This saved the teachers a ton of time on grading, but more importantly, it gave them instant objective data. They could see immediately which specific concepts lots of students were struggling to retrieve. That automation enabled the instant feedback loop and let them reteach effectively right away.
So, the big question, did it actually work? What were the measurable results of switching to this trivia approach?
Oh, dramatically. The teacher said the change in the classroom was almost palpable. Students started referencing the trivia games in their lab work. They'd say things like, hey, remember that question about decomposers from week 2? That's why this fungus matters here.
Yeah.
That shows they weren't just memorizing for the game, they were accessing that stored info later in a totally different context.
That's fantastic evidence.
And quantitatively. Vocabulary use in their lab reports jumped over 80% accuracy and fluency. Plus, teachers noticed something else important. The low-pressure team format. It drew in the quieter students. Those who might normally hang back in discussions felt more comfortable participating. It lowered that social barrier. The bottom line for the teachers, way less time spent reteaching basic concepts later on.
Less reteaching, that really is the gold standard, isn't it? Okay, so for you listening, whether you're trying to absorb professional development material or studying for finals, it sounds like the trivia has to be targeted. How do you make sure the questions actually align with what you need to learn and aren't just random facts?
Strategic alignment is absolutely key. It can't just be fun facts, it has to be purposeful. You have to start with your learning objective. What do you need to know or be able to do? Then map your questions directly to that. So if you're learning new software, a bad trivia question is, what year did version 3 come out? Useless, right? A good question is, to generate the quarterly sales report, what are the 3 essential steps and what's a common error people make at step 2? See the difference. Application.
Right, connecting it directly to the skill or the core concept.
Exactly. So for science, maybe rounds focus on specific processes like photosynthesis inputs and outputs. For history, instead of just dates, maybe it's identify 3 long-term consequences of the Peloponnesian War, pushing beyond simple recall.
And logistically, if you're designing this for yourself or a team, how do you keep that energy up? Keep it moving fast?
Keep the round short and snappy, maybe just 5 to 7 questions max per round, and focus each round tightly on one concept or skill area. Don't jump all over the place. This stops cognitive overload, keeps people engaged, and keeps that quick retrieval muscle working. If it drags on, it loses the fun, loses the energy, and honestly, loses its effectiveness.
Okay, good tip. Now let's talk pitfalls. If you listening right now want to try this for yourself or maybe for your team at work, What are the common mistakes people make and how do you fix them?
Yeah, good question. First big pitfall, relying only on simple recall questions, like multiple choice only. That mainly tests recognition, not deep understanding. The fix, mix it up. Include questions that require short answers, reasoning, applying the knowledge to a scenario. Your trivia needs to force you to use the information, not just spot it. For instance, if market condition X changes, what are the top 2 adjustments needed in our strategy?
Makes sense. Go beyond just facts. What else?
Another common one is letting the competition get out of hand. It becomes all about winning, not learning. The fix here is to balance points for correct answers with points for, say, good collaboration, or for the quality of the explanation the team provides, or maybe add a reflection task afterwards.
Hmm.
Emphasize the learning process, the discussion, not just who got the highest score.
Right. Keep the focus on the learning goal. Any others?
And finally, don't let the game itself become too complicated or time-consuming to set up and run. If creating the trivia questions or running the game takes forever, you just won't do it consistently. And consistency is key for retrieval practice. So keep the format simple. Set clear time limits for answers. Prioritize that quick, repeated retrieval over long, drawn-out debates on every single question.
Keep it simple, keep it fast, keep it focused. Got it. So ultimately, how do we know if this is actually working? If the goal isn't just winning the trivia game, how do you measure if your memory is genuinely getting stronger over the long haul?
Right, because the goal is durable memory and confidence over time, not just a score on Tuesday. You track it by noticing how often you need to look things up later. Are you recalling that information more easily in meetings or when you need it for a new task, maybe weeks or months later? If you're studying, are you performing better on cumulative tests or benchmarks that cover older material? If your accuracy improves over several sessions, and especially if that information feels more at your fingertips when you need it under pressure, that's your proof. The retrieval practice is working. It's building stronger, more accessible memories.
That's fantastic. So this whole deep dive really drives it home. Turning review into trivia isn't just adding fun, it's strategically leveraging how our brains actually learn best. It uses active recall, powered by our natural curiosity and, yeah, maybe a little bit of laughter and competition, to act like neural cement. And it sounds like even just 5 minutes of really focused, quick quizzing like this can make a tangible difference.
Absolutely. And remember that key takeaway from the science team's success. Leverage technology where you can. Use simple tools to handle the scoring and tracking. That frees you, or the instructor, up to focus entirely on the quality of the thinking, the reasoning, the explanations. You stop being just a grader and start assessing true understanding.
It really is about making the learning effortful, yes, but also memorable and engaging in the best possible way.
Exactly. So let me leave you with a challenge, something to think about right now. Consider the last really dense or tricky topic you tried to learn. Maybe it was a complex report for work, a difficult chapter in a textbook, a new skill. What 5 specific, focused, application-based trivia questions could you write right now? Questions tied directly to the most critical things you needed to learn from that topic. Questions that would force that effortful search we talked about. Go on, try writing them down. Challenge yourself or a colleague. See if it helps make that knowledge stick.